Hello and welcome to In the Lab YouTube channel and podcast. My name is Matthew Carmen. I'm the officer and founder of Fermented Pixels, who is presenting this. I'm also here with Everett Minsell.
Yeah, my name's Everett Minshall, and I'm the business development manager here at Fermented Pixels. Um, yeah, I wear several hats, but I'm Matt's right-hand man, as we like to say.
Absolutely. So for this podcast, we want to keep it pretty open, very laid back, but it's definitely going to revolve around technology. It's going to revolve around science, and of course, at the end of the day, business. Business is going to be the biggest thing that we're going to really target here. Talking to a lot of entrepreneurs and successful people. That's really our plan to get that out there, and to make a channel that's sort of about what we do, but also a little more wide open to different topics of what's going on in the world. We are actually right now in quarantine from the COVID-19, like everyone else.
Yeah.
So anyway, our first guest today is Kevin Anderson. Kevin Anderson is the owner of Fractal Math and Science Academy in Montclair, New Jersey. Which is a great tutoring program. Kevin holds a Ph.D. in organic chemistry from a
Yeah.
little known school called MIT. You might have heard of it. And he also holds a MS in organic chemistry from Michigan State. We had a really great time talking to Kevin. We talked about a lot of different things. What kind of stuff did we talk about?
Well, so we talked a bit about his background, his views on math and science, how he started his work in pharmaceuticals, and then ultimately about how he started his, founded Fractal Academy. Really great first guest, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. It worked out well within the lab, and
Yeah.
he's also worked in pharmaceuticals for many, many years. So he worked in the lab
Yeah.
himself. So we had a good time talking to him. Forgive us as we learn how to do this podcast better. We'll get better even at talking and better at recording and stuff like that. It's a work in progress. This is our first podcast, but we plan on taking it to the next level as we continue and grow with it. So
Absolutely.
I now bring you Kevin Anderson.
Matt.
Welcome to the first. This is the first edition of our podcast. It's called In the Lab by Fermented Pixels. It's kind of a metaphor for what we do here. But we thought you'd be a great guest, a great first guest, because you are, so much in the field of organic chemistry. You're a teacher, and you've gone to MIT. You have, extensive experience in that field. So we gave a little introduction at the beginning of this, and we just wanted to maybe you could give us a little bit of your background about yourself, your career, your education, and how you got to where you are now with Fractal Academy.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. I'm 41 years old, so it could be a long story, but
Go as long as you can.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, my whole life I've been fascinated with how things work. So I've always loved the sciences. Kind of growing up in Michigan, I really fell in love with chemistry, physics, all the sciences, all the math in high school. And when I went to college, I was actually recruited as well, not recruited, but I joined the cross country team and track team initially. So I was a student athlete in college. And kind of a fortunate twist of events, I fell on some ice warming down from a meet and injured my hip. And that kind of changed the whole direction of my life in a sense that I started to dedicate myself instead of running more in academics. So at that point, I switched from a math major to a chemistry major. Really fell in love with organic chemistry, physical chemistry, etc., and really started to pursue the sciences. Now, when anybody's in their 20s, they really don't, everybody pretends like they know what they want to do the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Um, I said, hey, what does somebody do with a chemistry degree? I guess you go to graduate school. So I just like, so I initially went to Michigan State University for the PhD program in organic chemistry. Wasn't extremely happy there. I love Michigan, but so I'm not like putting down Michigan State necessarily, but I wasn't so happy there, but I had an opportunity to transfer in graduate school over to Boston, was accepted to several schools over there. It wasn't a hard choice to pick MIT. It's one of the best in the world in the science. It just was an easy choice. And that kind of launched, I mean, anybody who goes to such a crazy good institution, it really opens up so many doors for you. So I did a lot of research in palladium catalyzed reactions when I was there. I really fell in love with the art of developing catalysts and like coming up with new ideas. And that kind of like gave me an opportunity to get a job in pharmaceuticals. So I was interviewed several pharmaceutical companies, eventually chose Roche Pharmaceuticals in New Jersey. And believe it or not, I didn't love working in pharmaceuticals. I love the aspect of doing research. I just didn't love the politics. I didn't love working for a big company. I just didn't feel like I was making a difference there like I did when I was at MIT. So what I started to do on the side is I started to teach or tutor or mentor students on the side while I was working at Roche, just in the evenings, and really fell in love with teaching again. I always loved teaching. I worked with, as a grad student, at MIT teaching. I taught, but I really just fell in love with working with students. And so I never thought you could run a business teaching, right? I thought you could just work at a college, which I could have done. I could have been a professor at a college. I didn't really want to do that. Or working in a high school or middle school, but I never really realized you could make a living, make a difference, and teach and do what I love to do. So I realized pretty quickly once I started doing it on the side, like I'm not like touting myself, but apparently I was good at what I was doing. Right? And so to refer me, several other families that do, and before you know it, I'm not joking, I was doing 40 hours a week at Roche, and I was doing 50 hours a week tutoring. And like,
oh wow.
yeah, there's just no way. Like, I mean, I work really hard, but like that's too much, right? So it came to a head around 2009. I quit. People thought I was crazy. They're like, "What are you doing?" Ironically, Roche shut their facility within 2 years of me quitting and starting my own business doing this. So it was like a good decision in the long run. But yeah, I started my official LLC in 2009, Fractal Science and Math Academy, initially just doing in-home tutoring with students, traveling all around New Jersey and a little bit online. This was really the beginning of online back in 2009 education. So I was just dabbling in it a little bit, and then opened, and it really took off, and I was really, really busy. And I eventually moved to Montclair, New Jersey, where I opened my first location. And again, I was scared, right? You sign a lease for $3,000 a month, and you're like, I'm not going to bring in revenue, right? So,
yeah.
At the time, there wasn't a lot of people supporting me, but I just had this vision that it was going to work. And I'm telling you, I had 0 tutors working for me when I opened my location.
That's excellent.
I was so busy that I had 7 people. So,
and how long was that? I'm sorry, you cut off a little bit between.
Yeah, like so within 7 months, I had like 4, 5, 6, 7 people working for me already. Really.
Nice.
So was that all through word of mouth, or did you do some business practices? Like what were the biggest hurdles that you got through to get to that, or is it just word of mouth and
That's always the struggle when you run a business is how can you advertise and get word of mouth out, right? Mm-hmm. So I've tried everything. I'm not kidding. Like obviously a website is like you have to have. I've tried, Google AdWords is.
Sorry, say that again.
Google AdWords.
Yeah.
It's always worked. It's not amazing, but it works. And word of mouth is actually like how it took off the most, I would say,
Google?
Yeah, Google and word of mouth, I think, are the ways
Yeah.
to work.
Was it the like? Did you have a lot of demand for the certain like? What were exactly you were tutoring?
So our focus is science and math. So for me personally, I do chemistry, organic chemistry, physics,
Right.
like most math. But
Makes sense.
Everything.
yeah, I mean, we
Right.
do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, our focus is science and
Okay.
math. What I would call it. So,
But in the early days, were you focusing on like like the science and math, and was there like such a demand for the sort of subjects that you were teaching or tutoring?
there was. So due to my background, because I worked at higher level institutions working with college kids, one of the main areas that, besides working with high school kids, is college kids, right? Pre-medical students, pre-dental.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, that's actually what I fell in love with, is working with um, students that really want to go that route. And they don't all love science that want to become medical doctors, right?
Yeah.
So I fell in love with mentoring them through that whole process. So like we're working all age groups, but
Okay.
that's where the demand like is the biggest for me personally. But for my whole business, yeah, it's just high school chemistry, which
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys like chemistry, but
No. I
You
like
know,
it from a distance. I think it's beautiful, but my mind is. I'm a creative guy, so like I don't analytical thought is not really my like I just don't think that way. So I think visually, but I mean I love the sciences, all the STEM fields I find fascinating. But my mind just doesn't work that way. But I do find it very fascinating. There's no doubt about that. I mean it's the building blocks of all humanity and really everything.
you would have liked organic chemistry on that because like that's what I fell in love with. I don't only like the analytical skills of like solving problems. It's the beauty of organic chemistry of coming up with a way to make a molecule, right?
Yeah.
Like I think you
nice.
love that aspect of it. There's no math, there's none of that. It's
Oh
really
really? Okay. Yeah, I should have taken that. I never took organic chemistry. It looks pretty interesting though.
it's hard though. It's like it's what stops people from becoming doctors. So
Is it what's the difficulty part of it though? If it's not mathematics, what is it? I again, I'm a neophyte. I don't know much about it, but
I mean, you're creative, and I would tell you most people that go into science aren't creative, right? Like, I mean, that's like a generalization, but like to be good at organic chemistry, you have to have understanding of tools. What I say, right? So this is the analogy I make with my that won't go to medical school is like you can get your medical degree and there's different levels of doctors, right? There's amazing doctors that can look at a patient and say like boom boom boom, this is what you have. And I have countless stories of that, of amazing doctors doing that kind of thing where 10 other doctors couldn't figure it out, right? So to be able to do that, you have to have tools, right? So when you build a home, like I don't know how to build a home. There's tools out there that like they exist, but I don't know how to use them, right? So part of organic chemistry is learning how to use the tools, right? I can give you a whole book of tools, but you know how to use it, right? That's what I would teach you how to do. And then once you have the tools, the beauty of making something, that's where the creativity comes into play, right? Anybody, like a lot of people can build a home. Can everybody build a beautiful home, though, right? So that's where organic chemistry is you got your tools and you have your creativity of putting those tools to work to make something amazing, right? So you just don't have the tools, you have the creativity, right? That's only
yeah,
part is think about, would you be able to teach yourself how to use all the tools to build a home? You could, but it would take a long time, right?
Hmm.
So that's the part that
yeah.
is part about organic.
Well, that makes sense. That's pretty interesting. So how is everything going now with the COVID? I guess everything is remote right now. Everything's remote, and how is that working out for you guys? How are you? What's the any hardships with that? Or are you you know that
Um,
I would imagine everything is remote now. Right?
Obviously, we had to shut our location down.
Yeah.
Now, I would tell you, of the 70 hours I worked with students a week,
You're breaking up a little bit.
so of the 70 hours, I was doing tutoring prior to the COVID, I was doing about 40 of those online already. Obviously, since this happened, I went 100% online, right? So me personally, now the difficulty with the outbreak is, yeah, all of our tutors are doing remote now using Zoom, Skype, whatever method that students are comfortable with, is just every high school kid is at home now, and just the learning environment is different. So college has like skyrocketed since COVID because college kids are taking insanely hard courses, and now they have to be at home trying to learn it. So that's taken off. As high school kind of has gone down a little bit because now all of a sudden high school is easy because the teachers are just like giving them worksheets and stuff and not really testing them, and it's pass fail, right? So I'm still doing, I know it's crazy, I'm still doing 70, 80 hours a week. I haven't, nothing's changed except for I get to sit in
the house. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I mean, that's great.
Pretty great. Yeah.
So what do you think the big difference is between college and high? Maybe I missed you a little bit. What is the big difference between high school and college that you're or that?
I mean, I think the difference
This new
level, right? So a student taking organic chemistry that wants to go to medical school, they have to do well in that.
yeah.
Whereas a high school kid just trying to pass chemistry, if it's now pass and fail, you just need to do your work, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
to go back to some of the tools that you were what are the tools that are involved with organic chemistry that you're teaching?
So for organic chemistry, again, it's similar to cooking. Let me do that analogy now, right? So like if you can look at a recipe and think about what ingredients do I need to mix together to get the product that's like the muffin. So how do you mix two chemicals together to get a third, and then do a sequence of events to eventually get to that final product? So that's really the tool aspect, right? So again, you can think in cooking, there's millions of different ways you can mix.
Yeah.
Like you have to know what you're going to get. You have to predict what you're going to get, and you have to get it. You know what I'm saying?
I see. Yeah.
So that's like the tool aspect of it.
Okay. And then, so if everything's online and these college students, they don't have a lab to be working with these chemicals, do you see any hurdles with that? And how do you help them manage that?
Must be, right?
Big hurdles with that. So the way that they're doing lab now, that they're at home.
Oh, you cut out.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you cut out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, put your headphones on or something. It might help. Or I think it's right. It should be all right. What do you think?
Yeah. So what I was saying.
Oh, there you go. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. What I was saying is like labs now are done watching videos. Again, I would make the analogy. That's like watching somebody on TV cook a great meal. That doesn't really do much for you, right? You can see somebody else do it. That doesn't mean you can do it. So at this point, because it's that way, you have no choice, right? Like we really can't have people do labs at home. So is really just like understanding what the lab is. They can't do it though. So there's they're missing out on that aspect of it, is what I would say.
You think technology could have a solution for that at all? I mean, what do you think in the future? Because I mean, it seems to me like this is going to be, once this is over with, it's not going to just end, right? I mean, it's going to be something we're going to be living with to a certain degree forever, right? It's like post 9/11 kind of. So I was wondering, you think that there's technologies that can solve some of these problems? Maybe AR, VR. I don't know how familiar you are with those things. Just like better interfaces like that can really help people learn better online. What do you think is the biggest thing missing? And do you have any ideas of what you think might be able to help people learn better remotely?
Learning aspect is based on the teacher. So like, we'll talk about the lab in a minute, but like, if you have a really good teacher that's connecting with you, no matter where you are, whether it's online or in person, like the learning can happen, right? The difference and the challenge with online is obviously connection issues sometimes.
Yeah.
Number two,
5G. Sorry.
The second issue is like one of the beautiful things about being in person with somebody is you can read body language a lot better. And you can read emotion a little bit better that way. And you can see, it's not if somebody's lying, but if you ask somebody a question and they're just like, yeah, I understand that, you can tell like by their body language, do they really understand it, right? Hard to get that. But I would tell any student that has worked with me in person and online, I'm the same person, right? I'm the same person teaching. I'm going to teach you the same way. I'm going to give you the same knowledge and mentorship that I would in person. So that aspect is not lost, okay? Now, you asked about labs, right? So how, I mean, I'm not familiar with virtual reality or any stuff, but that has to be a way that labs can be mimicked.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it can be done or how it's done. But if that aspect needs to be gained, I can see that as being a technology that could be, right?
Yeah.
If it will work. I just don't know how well it would work for a lab-based situation, and if anybody's even working on that aspect. Who knows? It could spring from this. Now, how is the world going to change? I mean, I remember 9/11. You know, my whole life changed because of it, and so people are people. Education is education. Today, like those things are not going to change. Are people going to change their behavior a little bit? I think so, short term. You know, I think we're going to eventually get back to the way we were to some extent.
We have to.
Yeah, and it's going to take a little time. I don't know. You know, like it's hard to predict, but like I don't want to do this analogy because like I don't think it's the greatest analogy, but a virus is a virus. They've always existed, and flu has been around for hundreds of years. So I'm comparing it to flu. If this is going to be around forever, we have to adapt to it.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're going to keep doing these extreme isolations.
Yeah.
Medicines that come out that that are treated. I think it's just a matter of understanding the virus. Like it's so new that I just like more information to come out on how we deal with this better, but because we don't know enough, that we have to kind of do this isolation. So,
well, you think that the effect, like to me, I'm very, very scared because when I think of the economy collapsing, I think of almost it's just as bad as the epidemic almost because through like suicides, depression, drug addiction, stress, people that, you know, we might be lucky and not have to deal with that. But a lot of people like literally their lives are at stake. You know what I mean? They, you know, so I wonder how civil unrest and all that kind of stuff that could happen from shutting down the economy as opposed to the infection rates. I know that we're not supposed to talk about that, but in reality, there's always going to be, you know, we always measure like what's the cost benefit ratio. So when do you think that, just your opinion, when do you think that we'll be getting back to work and things will start to return normal, or do you have an opinion on that? Or you?
I mean, I personally wish it were right now.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know if you've read like what is it? Sweden never actually did the isolation thing.
Yeah. And Taiwan, they never shut down either, and they did a great job.
It sucks. Like I'm telling you, there's nobody in the world wants anybody that they love to die, right? So I think that's why we're doing this is we're trying to prevent more people, right? Which we care about. You know, like my wife, my friend, her grandmother died and her aunt died. You know, like it's here, right? It's happening. Right? So it's a balance of I don't know what the long-term effects are. I mean, it is affecting a lot. It affected me. Like my child 2 weeks ago, we had to go to the hospital, right?
Yeah.
They said if I left the hospital, I couldn't come back. I almost like there was debate of whether I could even be there for the birth, right? So it's affecting all around, right? So when are we going to get back? I'm pretty confident by July. I think at least in New Jersey, we're going to be back 100% back to normal. No.
Yeah, that'll take time.
Office again until August. You know, maybe September.
Yeah.
Just choice because I'm fortunate. My business can exist.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. Some businesses can't, obviously. Like it's
Yeah.
restaurants and things like that people like that. I know I have a friend that had just invested in. I know people that even make a lot of money. They own theaters and stuff like that. They were paying, $75,000 a month rent, but they were bringing in millions, and now they can't even pay their rent.
Yeah.
It's just nuts what it's done, and I think the effects of it can be even, and of course, people unemployment and stuff like that. So that those effects, you can't really count those either, too. They're like, because they're so like how do you know if someone committed suicide or went back to drugs because of so there's so many unforeseen things I see on the other side. So I understand in a way why people want to get things moving a little bit, but I also know that there's something we have to be very, very, very careful about.
It's like a balance thing, right? So
Yeah. So it's a strange thing.
yeah, and it's actually, I own a commercial real estate building, and I have a bakery there, and I have a clothing store that rent from me. Yeah, they couldn't pay their rent, and I, I made the fortunate decision years ago that I never wanted to be. I wanted to know that I didn't need to work for a year and I could be fine, right? And I've made conscious choices to put money here and money there, and know that if I were like have my head whacked, and lose part of my brain, that I could be fine the rest of my life. And I have insurance policies to protect that. What makes me sad, and again, we could debate about this, is I bought a business interruption insurance policy, right? And I would argue that this is business interruption right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't think so.
They're not paying out for it. So it's
What
really
would they consider business? If this is not an interruption, what would be an interruption?
had a nice 30-minute conversation, mainly me being very upset with insurance and saying, I don't understand. Like, the governor says I have to close. Isn't that the definition of business interruption? It's, it's going to be interrupted. It's impossible not to be.
I'm a little afraid of what's going to happen with this. The same thing happened in 2008. It's all going to go to the big guys. You know what I mean? Like with the bailouts in 2008. So I think it's like now we don't like to get political on this show, but I think it looks like both people they're all going to throw it toward it seems like the same thing's going to happen from those bailouts, and then of course inflation will have to pay for it, but the little guy's not going to get it as much. But we won't spend too much time on that.
I would argue I'm a little guy, but again,
What's that?
it's like I'm saying I'm a little guy. I'm not like a big, like, wealthy, like owner of like 20 different places or whatever. But to get through this, yeah, the government's gonna have to help. They're trying, and you have to make. I don't know, like, we as humans, like, we don't give up, right? Like, you have to try to be creative and innovative.
Like roaches. I'm just kidding. Good.
I mean, we're gonna make it through this. I think restaurants, you're right. They're just gonna be hammered, unfortunately.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I guess my take on it is that there's going to be certain industries that will take the biggest brunt, and there's not much we can do about that. I know, like aviation, they're going to be suffering for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think that people need to make the transition into improving their remote capabilities. Sort of invest in those revenue streams as much as they can.
Exactly. Now, and like you said, travel is going to be affected. Like, because, like, for example, I want to go visit my parents this summer, right? So I can bring my children, so my parents can see them in Michigan. Like, now I'm double thinking that. Should I, like, biggest outbreak? My parents are in their 70s. Should I even risk driving to Michigan from New Jersey that I could bring the virus and it could kill my parents, right? So it's like, I'm even thinking of it, and that's not a big vacation. So what about the people that want to go to, like, Italy or wherever? Are they going to go anywhere this summer? Probably not, right? So that affect those industries a lot, I would say, So, and restaurants, you can't do virtual restaurants. So
no. They're trying to do my friends like are big into DJs and we go out once in a while. We're too old for that shit, but we go out once in a while with him. He's younger than me, but now he's doing like virtual DJing on YouTube. It doesn't seem the same.
Oh
You
no.
gotta have your own like party there. I don't know but they're doing it though. I guess they figure out a way to have a good time either way.
Can we talk about? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm fortunate that I've been doing the online thing since 2009, and I'm telling you, back then I used to hold like a whiteboard up to a camera to do it, right? And technology has come so far. So yeah, I think if you can adapt your business to online as much as you can, those people are going to survive and thrive, right? And
Yeah.
unfortunately, certain businesses just can't do that.
I
Yeah.
do the AR and the VR. We're moving actually into that now with our company a little bit. We have some partners we're working with, and we're going to move into that area. I think it's going to grow a lot though, because people are going to be, the world is going to shift, and especially as VR and AR gets more and more, robust. It's going to be, there's no brainer. You're going to have just like ability to put on just glasses that might look like this, even to just transport you somewhere where you do lab experiments and you could work with people and almost have that same kind of interaction without actually being there. So I do think that's going to be a big part of the future, but it's going to be a little while though. We've been hearing about that for a while. It's like one of those things
Yeah.
we've been talking about for 10 years, but it's not happening. But I think this might be the catalyst that could kick it into high gear, but that's just my opinion.
I mean, like in education, like there's a use for it at the end of the day, like doing it with your actual hands and like smelling chemicals have value. Uh,
Yeah, not just even education. I just mean everything though. Like everything's gonna, I think, move into more of the virtual reality world as it improves. I think this could be a catalyst to get that started up again, and to get it where it was like the way we thought it was going to be 10 years ago. And I remember they started talking about it, and it seemed like it was going to be amazing, right? It was like, and then it just nothing happened. Really, I mean, nothing much happened. I don't know. I just have a feeling that this might bring it back to life. Maybe it's just wishful thinking, but because it's exciting. But we'll see.
Can
What?
we talk about the some of this? You mentioned that you use like Zoom or Skype with your students. Could you go into like how it's improved? Because you said you've been doing this from 2009, and any improvements you'd make now on what's out there.
Yeah, back in 2009, like I said, I just used somebody, like I never was interested in online tutoring. But somebody contacted me from Southern Jersey. It was like, I need you to tutor me online. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do that. So obviously I had a Mac and I had a webcam. And so I literally held the white.
I can't hear you.
Just going to say my shoulder would be super like sore. Like,
Oh, yeah.
So where does it come from? So back then, like websites started to come out like where you could do interactive whiteboard where you could write with people. So I was using Skype and whiteboards back then. And then within the last year and a half, I feel like the technology has gotten even better with Zoom. I've been using that with students for the last over a year. Honestly, I wish I invested in the company because if you look at their stock, it's like 100% higher now. But
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest difference between Zoom and the other ones?
I've used Google Hangout. That's pretty good. Zoom,
Yeah.
like because I can hook my iPad into the computer and I can share my iPad screen. I can write on a program called Notability. I can save PDF. Like, and it's beautiful. It's interactive.
Oh, that's very cool.
Better technology, but I would imagine I'd have to pay for it, and which I'd pay for it if it's really amazing. But Zoom is for now free. It's always been free for me at least. So
Yeah.
so I think if you just started to do like big groups of things is when you started to have to pay for it. But like I think we actually even did pay for it because we started doing classes online with multiple people as well.
I kind of see the future of education moving more and more into the digital realm. Like people, especially like doctors, but all that kind of stuff that just like wasting your whole day to go see a doctor seems silly. It's going to eventually at some point seem like, I mean, obviously you're going to have to go there for big things, but I mean, like at some point to take your whole day off to see a doctor seems awfully silly at this point. About like a skin rash you have, or something like that. So I just see it get growing and growing and growing, and because we're in that business, I find it interesting of ways we can improve it. So I'm always thinking about ways we can make it better, make the experience better. So it's good to hear, what it is that bothers people the most.
I think, again, with some of my students, it does not work well, like the online, these college courses, but the one-on-one tutoring has always worked well. I've had
Right.
I've had students not like, they're like, oh, I don't like online. And I always say, try it with me for 15 minutes. Like,
I like it.
I'll prove to you it works well, and they always like it. So
Yeah,
I
that's
think
great.
one is different than a big class where nobody can like, it's hard to ask a question if you're doing an online class with 50 people.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Now I know that 5G is causing COVID, but no, that's a joke. That was a bad joke. But I think I don't know if you guys have read about 5G, but that like the technology is insane. They were saying that like today it's almost like comparing a garden hose to a that's how different the amount of data you're going to be able to transfer when we finally go full 5G. It's going to be incredible. So like I think it's going to change dramatically the way we like even this conversation. We have a little breaks and here and there. There's always going to be a bottleneck, but I think that's going to be completely eliminated once 5G goes through. In fact, I was listening to a guy talking about how they'll be able to have surgeries even. They believe that surgeons will be able to operate from New York, and operate on someone in like Afghanistan, and it'll be like to that second of degree where like the calculation passes through and is delivered that fast. The information will be passed that fast when we finally get 5G. So I think that's going to be a huge change to this whole dynamic because it's going to make it less choppy. Everything's going to feel more real, and then of course I think
It'll make like my tutoring better too. Obviously, I'm not saving a life, but like it's
Yeah.
just, sometimes there are issues, unfortunately, like with online sessions because people just don't have good connections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm saying. That's going to change a lot.
Yeah.
Just like everything. I think all the convergence of large data, fast speeds, and then the ability to calculate all those three things are going to come together and form the AI is going to they're all going to kind of grow, I think, at once. What I've been reading, and they're going to kind of create this. I don't know, not the singularity maybe, but it's going to be pretty. It's going to dramatically change the way the world works, I think.
Probably. Hopefully, again, positives could come out of this. Maybe like just accelerating that technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is actually you have a question there, Everett, or something?
Well, yeah, I wanted to back up a little bit and talk more about some of the pharmaceutical work you've done. I guess I got interested into biology in this last couple of years because I had a health scare. And so, yeah, I was just wondering if you have any insight into like any virology work that you've done, or if you've worked with, I was looking at your LinkedIn and it says that you did like some oncology work as well. But I don't, with the vaccines, do you have any insight into how that works, technology that's used?
Yeah, I mean, my background is more organic chemistry, so I was involved more in synthesizing and kind of designing drug molecules for treating certain diseases like cancers or diabetes, etc. So
Okay.
my specialty is not virology. I don't know the technology per se. For vaccines, they're really just trying to mimic part of the virus, and when they give it to your body creates antibodies for that. So if it sees that again, it's like, screw you, I'm going to kill you, right? Like, I'm going to eliminate you from my body. So yeah, I mean, like, my experience is not in vaccines. That's not my like expertise per se, but like, I think that's obviously going to be very important over the next year to see what like scientists can do to make sure we don't have to do this isolation thing again. We can minimize the risk of whatever outbreak's going to happen, like related to this virus. But the scary part is if they mutate, right? And this is obviously a mutation of like other known coronaviruses. So
Yeah.
how much is this going to mutate? Has it mutated already? Like, is that what we're seeing? You know, like that's like it's the scary part.
Oh,
But
I
the
see.
Yeah.
the
I
flu
find viruses to be, I mean, they're obviously awful, but they're also beautiful in a lot of ways too. The way, I know that sounds kind of weird to say, but you know what I mean, like just the way they form and the way they can host in the body, it's unbelievable. And they just lasted forever, and we have no idea how to destroy them. It's just
yeah,
pretty fascinating.
they are. I mean, it's like it's this keep survival of the fittest. The virus is just trying to survive, like you and me.
Yeah.
Darwinism, right? At its finest, I guess, right? Yeah. Sorry, we can't hear you.
Now you can view humans as like the virus of the earth, right? We're going to destroy it,
Yeah, in a certain way. Yeah.
but like viruses are no different. They're just small, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna hurt the Earth. We're just gonna hurt ourselves. The Earth is like George Carlin. The Earth is gonna be fucking fine. We'll be dead. You know, like it's not gonna hurt the Earth. It's gonna hurt us. They will be dead, but hopefully we'll turn that around. I tend to think a little bit on the positive side of that, but I don't know if you read any Pinkard. You ever read Pinkard? Stephen Pinkard.
No, I haven't. No.
The Better Angels of Our Nature, but he talks all about like the more positive side of things. But
Yeah.
so how about do you know anything about IoT? And I know it's maybe a little bit late because you got out of the pharmaceutical business quite a while ago, right? You know what IoT is? The Internet of Things. It's basically just the idea that we're all going to be connected at one point. That everything. It's basically the science called capital I, lowercase o, capital T, and it's basically like the study of just like interconnection, and how we're slowly going to connect everything. You know what I mean? At some point, our cars are. I mean, even at this point, we have toothbrushes can be connected. Everything. So, do you see that affecting how scientists make pharmaceuticals, or you know anything? Are you familiar with any of that stuff, or?
I'm familiar with it, but like to me, again, yeah, I don't know if I'm even like saying this right, but like you're saying, like it's everything's going to be connected in some way, but I don't know. I'm just trying to think from a business perspective. There's an advantage to being connected, right? Because then you can share ideas freely. But then, does any company have a business advantage in that case? So I'm not familiar with the technology or like the term necessarily.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know how it necessarily would affect pharmaceuticals, but yeah.
Okay, I think it'll affect everything a little bit. I was reading actually an article where this lady like tried to get as many things connected in her house, and they found out that like even the toothbrush, she had a toothbrush that was connected to the internet. It was sending data back to the company, so the data would be then sent to a dentist. They would sell the data. Like it's a little insane. So like basically everything in your house was it wasn't just giving you stuff, it was taking your data too. So they would analyze how many times you brushed your teeth, and then they would save that data. Because data is the new oil, they say, right?
Well, I think the biggest data, as you know, is just your cell phone, right?
Your data, yeah.
Yeah.
That was just kind of funny though, like they take your like your toothbrush is ratting on you.
They probably know every room in my home you've been in, right? So, and it's a little freaky because like yeah, they can track whether you've left your home or not, right, with your cell phone. So they're like New Jersey is the best at staying home of all the states. And I'm like, okay, they're really actually looking at this data. That's kind of fucking so,
Yeah, I mean it's like they say this is the new oil, right? So what would you say? Well, we're more of a business podcast. I guess that's going to be our stronghold. We want to keep this very loose, this podcast, because we love technology, we love science. Like we want to keep it very like open to just keep it interesting. But we definitely always want to go back to business, at the end. So what would be the most important advice you think you could give a business owner? Like if a business owner was listening to this, and your success has been wonderful. What would be the advice you'd give to somebody, kind of or executive starting out?
yeah. I mean, I honestly wish I started businesses earlier in my life, but, and I had mentors guiding me to that. But, like, this is scary. And honestly, because you're kind of responsible for yourself and your employees, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So you never turn, like, I wish somebody told me how much every day of my life. I have to always be thinking.
I'm sorry, I missed that. What'd you say? How many? You wish somebody told you what?
Somebody told me how like involved you need to be in a lot of this every single day, right? And like those decisions, like they're easy to make sometimes, but they can have dramatic impacts, right? So, I mean, my business is responsible for my own livelihood, but it's also responsible for the people who work for me, right? So, like, I hold that responsibility on my shoulders, right? Like, what am I doing now? I'm making sure I get as many students for my tutors as possible so they can still make money during this time, right? And it's a big burden to have on your shoulders, but it's fun. Like if you're a scientist, starting a business is awesome because you can run experiments, right? You run the experiment and you have a hypothesis and you say if it doesn't work, you don't do it again, and then you modify it and you run another experiment. So honestly, running a business is like doing science to me, at least. At the end of the day, the marketplace decides whether you're successful or not, and if you're not, you have to modify and do a new experiment. So it's totally true what they say, you know, in general for most people that many businesses fail. I forget what the percentage is. Obviously, this one that I'm running now that I love is working. But I'll tell you, I've had several businesses fail. I'm not joking. So if you have something that you love to do and it works,
Yeah.
you know, and you put the time in, it's an awesome, like I would never go back to corporate America because I just loved it, right? So I wish I
What's that?
I kind of didn't want mentors because I like the experiment part of it. I think I learn the best when I make mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Yeah. I mean, that's what's happening to me too. This has been the most. We only started about a year and a half ago with Fermented Pixels. It's been an adventure, I'll tell you that. I went, you know, a nice over 6 figure salary to diving in, but it's been the greatest thing ever, though. Like starting my own company, but it's. I think it's relentlessness. You got to believe in what you do. Obviously, you have to have a good product, and you have to have integrity, and you have to build. You know, do something, you know, outside the box a little bit. But I think it's relentlessness. That's what I think. It's just nonstop. Like you just believe in something and you just keep pushing forward until it happens. And if you know that it's, you know, you believe in it, you know it'll be there. You do what you do. So
You have to accept failure as not failure. You have to accept
yeah.
So if something doesn't work, why did it not work?
Exactly. Yeah.
Make it better, or what can I make a decision? You know, what decision can I make to modify this to get it to work? Right? It's like that's fun for me. I know, like for some people, that's like a nightmare, but I love it. Like it's stupid. I feel like failure makes me feel alive. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It hurts, but it's a good thing.
Use my brain, which is good. That's a good thing, right? Like, I personally don't like being complacent. I'm always thinking, it's not that I'm thinking about the next thing. I'm always thinking about like, what can I do to make things better, right? So right now has been like, I wish I had more time to, you know, not working, but like, I'm just like survival mode right now, trying to meet the demand. I'm lucky, right? But I honestly wish I had some downtime now to kind of think about what should we be doing
What's
now.
the next step? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm always thinking that.
Yeah. Well, what is that? That brings me to what is the next step for Fractal? I know that you have one location now. You're talking about growing. I mean, to me, like personally, I think that you guys could be an online force too. I don't know if that's something you're thinking about, but I think that it doesn't have to just be in the Jersey area. I mean, you obviously have a great team there, a beautiful website. uh, just kidding. But no. Throwing a little plug in there for Fermented Pixels. We really love working with you. But seriously, you guys, I don't know. I see you got. What's the future? I know you're going to open another location. Would you be open to moving more into the online sphere and opening up to more states even, and widening?
I work work with students in China, Korea. So like I work globally. I personally work globally already. Do my, not necessarily. I personally don't know how to even get there. So like that's a challenge, right? Like how do I get my company's name known enough that somebody in Nevada says, I want to work with Fractal? Like, is it advertising? I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm not ready for that yet, is what I'm going to tell you. So like, to me, that's something I need to figure out. And I need to think, do I want to go there? Because if I'm already busy 80 hours a week and my tutors are already busy like 60 hours a week, like, I don't know that I can handle.
You don't want to lose quality, right?
So I want to open more locations. I know that seems like stupid in today's environment. Why would you want to do that? But there is value for in-person teaching. Right?
Yeah.
And my interest is in opening locations near college campuses.
Makes sense.
Yeah, like near Princeton or whatever, right? I need partners to do that. Like, I have 3 kids under the age of 2 now. I'm tutoring 70 hours a week. I want partners to help us get there. Like, it's an odd, right?
Yeah.
They say that's the hardest thing with. I'm sorry to interrupt, but they say it's the hardest thing to go like, and I'm having a hard time with that too. When to be a manager, like you're used to doing the work, but to stepping back and letting other like them to be like really successful and have a big company, you have to have that ability to step back and let other people work for you, which is a really difficult thing for a lot of us to do, right? We're always micromanaging. We always feel like we want to do it the right way, but it's actually a gift to be able to do that properly. So I think that's something I'm going to have to learn, and I don't know if that's something you're struggling with, but it's a good problem to have. But
I've always struggled with that, and I've slowly been starting to step back. I know it doesn't sound like it, but I have been, and I give students to my other tutors now, more than I used to. So I think it's a process. Some people will refuse to work with anybody but me because they were referred to me. So like sometimes I have to step up and do those things, but it's, I think, again, for me, I'm going to need somebody else to help me. I can't do it all alone. It's accepting that, I don't know everything. I don't know how to do this. And I need help, and to me, it's hard to find the right person to do that with. It's not that people say, it's not, I can get money, I can get loans, I can finance it myself. That's not what I need. I want somebody that loves it as much as I do.
Yeah.
That opening 5 more locations gives value to the world and has passion for it, right? So those qualities are hard to come by, actually, to surprisingly.
Yeah. No, believe me, I know. Definitely.
I always tell any potential person that's even interested in that is I say, I am fine financially and mentally. I'm happy with where I am right now. The only gain that I have in opening another location or another 10 locations to me is knowing that we're having more of an impact than I can with one location. That makes me happy, right? Yeah. Sure, I might make more money. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, I always view money as I just need to feed my kids. I need to have shelter above my roof, I need healthcare. I need those basic things. Anything above that is just like candy, right? Like, it's like, okay, a little, maybe we'll go to a nice dinner once night a week or something. I don't, it doesn't make me happier to make more money. It makes me happier at this point to make a big difference, Yeah,
that's great.
I'm looking for somebody that is okay with making money, obviously, but has that passion and vision that I have to do that. I'm fine. I'll exist the way I am now the rest of my life, and I won't be upset about it. But I would like to do more. I would like to do more.
Yeah, we feel pretty much the same way. I mean, I love money like everyone else does. I mean, who doesn't love money? It's obviously when you get to a certain degree, it don't contribute to your happiness so much. But I mean, it is something like, I mean, I started my own company. It wasn't just because I wanted money and because I wanted to make great work, and I wanted to like really connect with things. And, I find that I love what I do. So it is much more than just money. But of course, the money makes you happy. It's nice to have that. But you don't want to grow too fast either, and you want to make sure you can keep your integrity, together, because you can grow so fast that your integrity can go out the window, and then the whole point of what you did.
Yeah, yeah, right. Cool.
So we're about 5 minutes from 3. This would be a good time, Kevin, if you want to add some last thoughts or tell people, how they can get started with Fractal Academy.
Is there something we should be talking about that we're not in society? Is that like that just throw you a red, just to throw you something? Or if not,
Yeah, that's a big one to answer. So I don't know if I'm what I would tell you is anybody that wants or is interested in learning science, we're a great company to come to teach it. I really truly hire passionate, educated, highly educated, Ph.D. masters. That doesn't mean you're a good teacher, but I make sure anybody who works at my company is passionate and is really good at teaching. So we are the place to go for pre-med, pre-dental, any science, any math. I have a PhD math guy from MIT. He can teach. He's an astrophysicist. He can launch this right now, right? He's And the key again at Matt, just to sort of jump off what you said before, is the key is to all, Steve Jobs probably said this too, is to hire people that are better than you,
smarter than you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this guy is so brilliant, but he thinks I'm brilliant, so it's just like this.
Well, that's the beauty of it. You want to have people that are wired differently in your company too, right? You don't want a bunch of people that just think like you.
Yeah. So we have, we have personnel here that are passionate, that can teach, that can help you get from point A to B. We're not just teachers; we are mentors, right? We guide you through your process. We're here emotionally for you. So it's almost like we're a counselor, but not really. We're not advertising that, but we're here for that. To help people through that process. So, I mean, we're the place to go to for that. I hope we are known even more for that every year that goes by. And we appreciate Fermented Pixels for helping us kind of portray that image in our website. And I think we did. And is there more we can do with the website? Probably, but right now we're handling demand. I think our website is working. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we're getting.
It's great to hear. We love to hear that. We really had a lot of fun working with you. It was amazing. That's the field that I'm really interested in. That's why I wanted to have you as our first guest, because our whole when I went at science, but we kind of our whole thing is built on kind of that, or allegory or story or metaphorically. Yeah. So you'd be a great guest. You're one of my first clients, and we had a great time building the website, and I hope it's very successful for you. And I really appreciate you coming on. Yeah. Do you have any other questions, Everett, or anybody?
Yeah, actually, just right before we go, I just wanted to ask, do you have students that go through recurring, obviously, right? So you do specific courses, and then when they finish that course, you can keep working with them throughout?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I have never done the actual calculation, but the lifetime of our students that we work with them is not 1 month or 2 months. It tends to be years. So
that's great. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I try to portray in a sense, is we're here for the whole process, not just but we'll be there for students that need it for one time.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
A majority of who we work with are people that want to work with us. I love it. They're choosing us for a reason, right? So, yeah, definitely.
Sweet.
I just want to throw it out. The reason why I chose you guys to do my website, I interviewed a lot of people, but when I met you, I don't know if you remember when I met you.
We went to Painters at Brookhaven. Remember? That's the first time. Well, we met before that, but the first time we met in person. I'm sorry.
Honestly, you, for some reason, I'm attracted to creative people. Not attracted like that, but I want to be around you personify that to me. And I wanted to work with you. And when I saw on Facebook that you were launching your business, I said, I wish I had somebody support me that believed in me in the beginning. Nobody did. I just did it on my own. I took the risk, but I said, why not? I need a new website. I like this guy a lot. Like I really do, and I like his
Great.
creativity. I like what he's done. Like it was a no-brainer. I had people still pounding on my door to get my business after I already hired you. They're like, well, he's not going to be able to do this. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like I'm picking this person, like, because I like this person, right?
Great, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's why I really was happy working with you. We got along great. I admire you a lot, so that's why I wanted to have you on this podcast. And I wish you continued success. And do you have a drink there? We're fermented pixels, so we're open to have everyone have a cocktail. Here's a cheers, virtual cheers, everyone. And thank you again for joining us, Kevin. I hope everything's great with your family. And
Yeah.
maybe we'll get a chance to all meet in the city one day for a beer when this whole thing is over. A
Hopefully.
little something.
Hopefully.
So take care, man.